Hello, Rusty Shackleford that lives in British Columbia. Just like the song says. Oh, really? What a great idea. Sorry about my sarcasm, but I've contacted probably a dozen YouTubers that give interviews on consciousness and whatever, right? Similar meaning of life stuff, and no one gets back to me. So it's just no one wants to hear this. Most of humanity is too deep in the delusion. They don't want to really get out of it. They can't pull their way out of it. The awakened brave. Okay. Maybe he might be a bit of a whack job too. It's the truth is being revealed at the end, but at the end, everyone is so deluded that they don't actually want to hear the truth. They're searching for something that will propagate the delusion. Not from my perspective, but if if a person is single-pointedly focused on their spiritual life, I don't see any room for reproduction in that life. I don't see any desire for someone to have a child when they're devoting their entire life to the spiritual practice. See, if I were king of the world, our species would the goal would be to go extinct. So so instead of learning from nature that, oh, all species go extinct, all biological species go extinct, so we should learn from that and operate from that understanding. So the species that I would be overlooking or ruling if I were king of the world, the goal would be to go out peacefully. So each individual makes enlightenment their goal, and with their death comes peace, right? They die peacefully. They don't die kicking and screaming and fighting against death, because we realize that death is a natural, you can't have a birth without a death. So if every person did that and no one had any kids, then eventually the species would die out, right? It would just naturally die out with each individual in that species dying peacefully and then not wanting to come back, right? To reincarnate. And if they do reincarnate, they'll reincarnate as a peaceful entity because they went out peacefully. So eventually, a species like that would just die out naturally, everyone peacefully. And then you'd have not just individuals becoming enlightened, but an entire species becoming enlightened. So that should be our goal. Our goal shouldn't be just to live, just to keep living. That's that's not the goal of life. I mean, I shouldn't say keep living. I should say keep being born and die, because we can't help but live, right? Life is all there is. So the goal should be exactly to end samsara, which is the goal of all religions, is to end the suffering that is this world. So every individual that wants to stay in this world and stay alive, they are in a state of delusion, right? They don't see how the purpose of the game is to actually escape the game. So yeah, everything that exists here in this realm is here because of delusion, because they've entered the game. Yeah, I guess from one perspective, it's accurate to say that mm, some aspects of awareness are just starting the game, or it, yeah, I mean, from this perspective, obviously there are individuals who are ready and individuals who are not. Individual, there are aspects of God that wants to continue playing the game. and there are aspects of God that wish to stop playing the game. Yeah, it's always the uh, the Blockbuster store is always open 24/7, 365. So you can go into the Blockbuster. Remember Blockbuster? You go into the Blockbuster and pick out a movie to watch, which is a new life. Might not be a human life anymore. It's something else. I don't know. But yeah, there's always opportunity to enter the game. I believe that those who are not spending more time looking at the screen than the physical world, like those of us who are in nature and not so much in cities, I believe that those people who are not spending much time looking at the screen and are more interested in the physical realm and the sensations, that they will reincarnate not into humans, because humans will be extinct, but some sort of, they'll stay in the physical realm of the sensations, of the senses. And most of humanity, though, I believe, are going to go into the digital realm. They're going to take self to be the hardware and software of the computer system. That's where most of humanity is headed. But that's dreamless sleep, isn't it? Dreamless sleep is where it's there's only the frame of reference. There's nothing to reference against it. And that would also be the death state and also the extinction state. So this dreamless sleep is an iteration of the process, and then death is a bigger iteration of the process, and then extinction is the biggest iteration of the process. Yeah, so that's interesting. So was your coma like dreamless sleep, only you were aware of self while in the dreamless sleep? I mean, it's I mean, near death experiences and psychedelic experiences quite often can be very similar. So wouldn't you say that those were non-physical? Did When you were in your coma, would you describe it as like being in dreamless sleep or just sleeping and then you'd have dreams within that? Or were you always aware and was there time? Yeah, it's the way you describe it, not exactly what was happening, but the way in which you describe it is just like salvia. Because when you're tripping on salvia, it's just as real as this. And then when you remember that you took salvia and you're tripping, there's no way to distinguish which experience is the real one. So this is why I keep saying that all experiences are illusory. It's not really a case of this being more real than the trip realm. It's they're both unreal. They're both dreams within the state, if you will. Yes, I believe that dreamless sleep is more our natural state than the waking state. And also after death, the death state would also be more natural than the alive state, the waking state. And then extinction, well, I can't like the extinction event, everyone will see God. Like in a way that they haven't seen God in a long time. And they will come face to face with their true nature. And those who are not, do not, have not had the experience of recognizing thought free awareness and the stillness, the Mona, they're going to be terrified. It's going to be this the terror that comes along with believing that you not exist, like the existential terror that will accompany those who are not those who don't know about thought free awareness in this extinction state will be terrible. It'll be terrifying. and they will rush into whatever is comfortable, whatever they remember to be their old life, which will be a computer simulation. So I don't know how that transition takes place. But then again, no one understands how the transition took place to the Big Bang, how we entered here, how you were born here. No one really understands that. Yeah, so and the way that my model adapts the English language to get rid of the word nothing, because nothing doesn't exist. So if people were to adapt my language, then there would be my model, then there would be no fear of death, because there is no such thing as non-existence in my model, in my language, right? It doesn't even exist. So there'd be no fear of death because you cannot not exist. Whereas atheists, you just blink out, right? I guess, or materialists, you just stop existing. Like, and that's blasphemy. Saying that at some point you will not exist or did not exist, well, that's basically blasphemy. It's it's completely wrong. And that's where the fear comes from. Like, the fear of non-existence is basically the consciousness repulsing that idea that there could even be such a thing as non-existence. It's an abomination. Yeah, but so let me bounce this thought experiment off you. So in the float, I have a float tank, right? So I sometimes imagine that I'm buried alive. So imagine this is a thought experiment. Imagine you wake up and you find yourself in a casket, all dark, just you, assuming that you've been buried alive. All right. Now, if you know that you've been buried alive, then there's there's two things that can happen. Either you panic and freak out and lose your mind and just like have just right, like just lose your mind basically, right? Just panic and die panicking and in terror, right? Or it could be the absolute perfect, most peaceful way to die because there's no pain involved in just slowly losing the oxygen turning into carbon dioxide and just basically slowly, gradually passing out and dying. Well, that could be the most peaceful way of dying, right? There's no pain. It's all just up in here. All the suffering that went on until you died, being buried alive, would all be up here. So what we're doing with the one step path is, well, we'd be at peace with that. It'd be like, oh wow, how fortunate. I'm going to die free of pain. So that would be the most peaceful way to go out. But most people would freak, right? Lose it and go out being terrified. So, from one person's perspective, the Mona, the stillness, is peace and bliss, right? And to the other person, it's absolute terror. Solution seeker. I think that's exactly it, Rusty. I think when you see these people who are, I don't know what they're high on, but they're bent over, like they're still standing, and some of them can be bent over backwards for frick's sakes, or bent over forwards, but they're zombies, right? But that must be they must it takes them away from this realm. So all of this, so much of what humans do is proof that we want to get the fuck out of here, right? The goal is actually to escape this place. So everyone that takes a drug, who hasn't taken a drug, everyone that's committed suicide, like suicide is the ultimate expression of trying to escape this game. Doesn't work, but there have been a lot of people who want to escape this game, and they understand that like this is the purpose of it. But you can't escape with suicide. But Rusty, again, you are one of these people that's ripe. Yeah, right. You're a ripe fruit because you're here. Like you're one of the half dozen people who are here. So you're one of these souls that's ready for this. For whatever reason, you're ready for this. It's a tricky game that you have devised here. It's right. Obviously, if the greatest intelligence possible designs a puzzle for itself, it's going to be really difficult because it's designed by the greatest intelligence possible. And that greatest intelligence possible, if it's playing along, then it's probably the best actor that's ever right. It's the perennial actor. So it can put on a great play and it can convince itself. What a silly game, eh? God itself is participating in its own delusion. Now, so yeah, so Our conception of time is a bit wonky because now isn't the uh, now isn't this tiniest little slice of reality. Now is all of reality, and the appearance of time flows through. So our memories and our projections into the future, our thoughts about the future, those thoughts project the illusion of time, project the illusion that there is something other than now, here, nowhere. So the reality is timelessness. But because we make distinctions about this event happened and then this event happened, it's the way in which we describe things. So if we don't describe a situation, then there's no separately existing event from which time can be measured, right? So if there's no thoughts, basically there's no time, because a time is the separation between two events, and you can only have two events when you're describing things. I did this, they did that, this happened, that happened. But if that process isn't going on, this happened, that happened, they did this, then there's no time, because there's no separately existing events. It's all just one long event. Yeah, it's of course it really, like, it obviously all occurs in the now. Everything is always now. And the past, the memory of that past is occurring now, and the projection of the future is occurring now. So yeah, you just take all of time and put it in a set, basically. Just say this is all of time, and just now. So yeah, so it's the same thing as saying here. Well, here where? Here in this room, here in British Columbia, here on planet Earth, here in the Milky Way galaxy, right? You can still, where is here? Well, the same thing can be said for time. Yeah, so here is as big or as small as you want it to be, and now is also, I guess, like that. So the problem with materialism and reductionism is that, again, it's more distraction. We never, this is the tool. This is the tool that we are given through which to reveal the mystery. This is the tool that we are given to play this game with. And this is the realm in which that we need to try to escape from. So the tools, the technology that has been constructed through mathematics and through thought that reveals the everything that isn't this realm. So that would be cellular, molecular, atomic, subatomic quarks. That's we never should have went down that road. That's all just distraction. It's all our past. It's that's where we're messing with time. We're going back in time. We're devolving, we're reliving, or we're still being attached to those realms that we've already gone through in this evolutionary ladder, on this evolutionary ladder. So reductionism is exactly wrong. Like it's exactly just another brilliant diversion played by Maya. There are senses, a specific combination of senses that create experience of spoon. But if you don't put the word spoon to it, then there's just that experience of the senses, which is holistic, right? It's all one thing. There doesn't have to be a separately existing object called spoon to have the experience of the feel of and the weight of it, right? So there's no spoon when you don't say spoon. If there was no word spoon in the English language, those sensations would still arise, but there would just be no word attached to it. So I believe that the word is delusion. The word attached to the sensations is Maya trying to lure consciousness into the next iteration. Because even those senses are shown to be, even the senses themselves, and the senses project the world, they don't detect it. So if the senses project the world, then in order for the world not to be projected anymore, you pull attention away from the senses and stay inward, stay focused inward, because that stillness and silence that is there in dreamless sleep is always there. Just like the night sky is always there, except it's obscured by the blue when the sun is hitting the atmosphere. So it's always there, but the waking state obscures our natural state, which is the stillness, the frame of reference upon which all this arises and passes. Well, those blind people. They're just trading in the sense of thought. I'm sorry, the sense of sight for thought. So they're still trying to fill the emptiness right? They're still trying to fill the emptiness with more emptiness, right? They're still trying to make the projection seem more real, just with thoughts instead of with sight. But yeah, but we, the eyes, humanity has an attachment to the visual sense for sure. Back to that time thing. Um, in a way, the self is the now, right? So in the triune fundamental model of reality, that that row that is the holographic expression that is time, the middle I have as presence, not the present, but presence, right? So we have past, presence, future. So fact that I use the word presence instead of the present infers awareness. So you are that frame, that unchanging frame of reference upon which all time and apparent change takes place. You are the frame of reference. That's what self is. Self is the frame of reference upon which the world arises and passes, and space and time and everything that you can differentiate in that. All differentiation occurs against the backdrop that is the self, which is presence. And the one step path is just always being right there in connection with that. Well, not in connection of it, being that, always realizing that you are that, living in that state. Right. Never losing self awareness. Yeah. I just keep saying the same shit every week. So it's not like church where the minister tries to come up with something new and interesting. It's like, well, it's the same as last week. But I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have been able to understand this and be in alignment with it if you didn't adopt the practice, right? If you weren't engaged in the practice of the one step path, you may not understand this to the depths that you do. And that's where most people fail, right? They don't want to try to disprove it through engagement with it, like I say. They just want to believe that it's false and then just not engage in the practice, so then it can just always remain false in their mind. Yeah, yeah. It's almost a cheap thing. Do you start meditating and then come to this, or do you come to this and then start meditating? But even meditators, that they're not putting as much effort into it as they should. They don't understand the importance of meditation. They just do it. They just do it. Meditation isn't a supplement to life. It's the way in which to live life. It's the way to end all suffering and escape this game. I think most people have these experiences, but I think most people just shrug it off too. They don't investigate it any deeper. They just kind of just shrug it off. Yeah, yeah, and then like kids who say tell their parents, well, they feel like they're outside their body, or they're having these weird experiences. Then they go take them to a therapist, and the therapist says, no, you're really in your body. Like, right, the therapist normalizes these experiences and just, oh, don't worry about that. It's Yeah, well, yeah, it's the blind leading the blind, right? It's the delusional leading the deluded. All these institutions in society are built to keep society functional and keep the illusion believable. If they just go in circles, they'd be safe, right? If the blind lead the blind in a circle, they should be okay. Of course, they're not going to get anywhere, but well, science is just wrong. Like, everything that humanity is wrong. Is wrong. It's false. It's deception. It's we As a species, we need to accept that we're wrong, that we are a cancer. That's the only way to go into remission, is to admit that we are a cancer, and the way to fix it is to transcend thought. But of course, we won't. This is a cancer that will not go into remission, obviously, and it will just continue. The human species, like a virus, will just continue to expand and overconsume, and then it'll kill the host, which is Earth. And along with that, the cancer itself will die. And to question the validity of science, well, you have to be crazy, right? Because science is today's religion. So everyone must bow down before the scientists, who are the gatekeepers, the knowledge holders, which is, talk about the blind leading the blind, is asking a physicist any question about life or any subjective experience at all. Well, how if there was E equals MC squared written on a piece of paper, that it would be interesting to hear how they would explain how these symbols on this piece of paper caused that apple to drop. It's ridiculous, of course, but that's the story. But my story, of course, is the ridiculous one. My story that makes sense, actually, and that anyone can understand. Yeah, but they believe that it's the model. They think the model is running things rather than modeling things, right? But that's the problem, is that they believe that their model is actually the operating things when it's modeling things. A model is built with a it's representing something. A model is representing the thing. The model is not the thing. Hey, Paige. But and again, science can only measure things, right? Science is measurement. And measurement requires two. So science, all it can do is bifurcate. All science can do is reveal duality, because that's how it operates. It operates on measurement, which requires duality. So so science, all it can do is project duality. And then they wonder why they have the mind body problem, because they've taken out spirit, right? So what's actually a triune system, they've removed the most important part of it, the frame of reference. And now they're trying, now this that's why they have this big consciousness problem, right? The hard problem of consciousness. It's because they're trying to fix the duality problem with a system that can only produce duality, and they won't listen to me. But it's obviously fucking crazy. Like just a couple of sentences, like just stop and listen to what I'm fucking saying, right? Science is measurement. All right? We we agreed science is measurement. Measurement requires two. Yeah? So therefore, science, all it can do is project duality. But they don't stop there. They go, "Oh, well, that's an interesting line of reasoning. Let's do science." Fucking clowns. Well, I think they're all a type of measurement, right? Well, that's the problem, is that they've removed spirit, which is the awareness. So they've removed, they don't recognize the frame of reference, which is the third thing in the triune system, which is spirit, right? It's that which is not measured. It's exactly that which cannot be measured or is not measured. It isn't measured because it can't be measured. It's not measurement. So they've removed the frame of reference, the actual frame of reference, which is self, which is the presence and God and spirit and the middle column. And then they're left with just duality, right? So it's and then that's a Ponzi scheme, because they're trying to, the hard problem of consciousness is they're they've removed the frame of reference, so now it's a Ponzi. So which is it? Is it mind that is fundamental reality, or is it physical? And they've just mixed all that up into what they call consciousness. So it's all just a convoluted mess now, where there's no differentiation between thoughts and sensations. But my model fixes all this because it fixes the language. It there has to be a non-thing. It can't be just something, nothing. There has to be non-things, and non-things exist, but they're not nothing. It's so easy. You can't measure just one thing, right? If you measure a circle, well, that develops into pi, basically, doesn't it? Where do you stop? Right? Where does it you can't measure just one thing. And that's what this is. It's all one thing, so you'll never be able to reveal the unity that is reality through science. Science can only reveal the illusion, therefore giving life to the illusion. No, materialists would rather, this is how crazy it is. This is how insane it's gotten, is that materialists would rather deny the existence of the self than the existence of the world. They would rather declare the self as being the illusion rather than the world being the illusion. That's how bad it's gotten, right? If when they say, when you hear the question, is consciousness an illusion? That's basically saying that the self is what's illusory and the world is what's real. Like, that's the materialistic view, right? And yet you exist in dreamless sleep when the world does not exist. So yeah, so salvia, I believe salvia tweaks the nervous system, adjusts it in such a way that you can sense the wave function. So it messes with time. Salvia, that's only now, right? There's no past, there's no future. Even that which is a memory is revealed to be occurring in the presence now. And there's also with salvia, there's a strong frequency wave path to it. And to me, it's revealing how the entire world flashes on and off, like the screen, like the pixels on a screen. So what salvia is doing is it's forcing the nervous system to look at the whole screen at once. No way that you can focus in on a group of pixels on the screen to pick out a car or to pick out anything that's happening on the screen as individual objects having a causal relationship on the screen, right? The screen being the 3D, 4D world. But salvia allows you to look behind the screen. Like it's almost like literally we can as I can peek behind this 2D screen, but not really. If I took the back off, I could look at the back of the screen, but I couldn't interpret the information wave that's hitting the back of the screen. I couldn't contact it. But that's what salvia does. Is it basically, if this is a three-dimensional screen, we can look behind it to see the information wave that's hitting the back of the screen in a frequency. So it's really like Dorothy peeking behind the veil, behind the curtain, to see how the information wave, how this functions all at once in a frequency, flashing on and off. And there's spaces between, right? There's something, nothing, something, nothing, something, nothing, something, nothing. and salvia reveals the nothing behind the something. Yeah, salvia, you can't. The trip. You lose all sense of identity, right? Like, you literally cannot remember your name, your identity. Like, I think that this place should be us. People go to South America to take ayahuasca, and I think that maybe people should come to British Columbia to take salvia. I think that maybe this could be one of those places where people come to have a salvia experience with a guide that knows how to deal with it. Yeah, for the first half a second when you wake up, you're kind of in that, must sign a waiver. Yeah, for sure. Like, you can't be on any meds for depression. You can't have any history of mental illness, because that stuff is powerful. But it's just straight leaf, right? The way nature intended it to be. A waiver is a legal document that says that the other person isn't at fault for whatever I do. Like, so they're not legally responsible for the actions taken after the event. Like, you can't sue me because I warned you about the dangers of salvia, and then you signed this waiver saying that you haven't had mental illness before and all this stuff. So legally, you may or may not be protected from being sued if someone went crazy while taking salvia. Or like anything, right? You go skiing, you sign a waiver. You do, you rent anything, you go. Yeah. Hi, Callie. Come have a chat. Yeah, I've never done DMT, but it sounds like it's one of these a non-physical realm that's almost entirely based on mathematics. That's what I get from listening to DMT trips. Fractals, yeah. Which is another expression of the redundant aspect of samsara. Yeah, there's space elves, I think. Space elves, I think they call them, or something like that. And lots of times their response is, "You shouldn't be here. What are you doing here?" Yeah, I'd have to try DMT. I would say that it's just probably one of these non-physical realms. It's a mind realm, whatever that even means. Mm. You were meant to come back and spread the word of non-conceptuality. That's what it is, Rusty. Be an apostle for the new religion. I don't want to call it a religion. What else can we call it? It's not a fucking philosophy either. You can't use the four-letter C word. Oh, I'm sure that we will be called a cult many, many times. I'm sure of it. Well, hi, Kitsy. Gonna show everyone how I don't take care of you. Oh, freaking, what a mess you are. Well, I mean, that's what Ramana did, and I followed Ramana's footsteps as best I could, as best I can, and it's all I can verify everything that he said is so it's just the level, the degree to which you engage in the practice, right? So Ramana sat in a basement of a church, a temple, on a slab of concrete without moving for weeks. So that might be a bit much, but that was after his enlightenment experience, which is interesting, right? So, as deeply as you want to go into this, I believe that's how you should go. You should go as deeply as you possibly can, because what are you missing, right? You're not, yeah, you get it. And don't do it on faith, right? Don't just engage in the one step path because it's something that has a name to it, and right, it's do it and then assess your progress as you go along, like every few months or whatever. Just reevaluate, like, okay, is what changes am I experiencing because of my practice? Do I like what's going on? Is it working for me? Because if you like peace and happiness, then this should be this should work for you. But if you want excitement and thrills, then this probably ain't going to be your bag. I'm getting purr in stereo today. I know Kitsy's a mess, but she's purring right now, so she looks terrible, but she's purring. Hey, Kits. I don't know. Their page is cats, so I'm not sure how old. Oh, Kitsy's 8. Well, we don't look too close at Kitsy. She's a matted. She looks like she's feral. Because I can't keep up with the brushing. There's so much brushing. Yeah, Callie's probably not going to be around that much longer. Hey, maybe another year, Callie. Here it rarely gets above 30 degrees Celsius, that is, of course. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like Callie's been my guide too. She's been a great companion. Maybe she'll go straight to enlightenment. Hey, Callie. You sure did. You did something right to end up here, because this is a pretty good place to live your final years. Let's not. Yeah. Yeah, there is something about being a spiritual warrior, but it has to do more with surrendering than it does fighting. Brave, and you have to prepare to do this alone. I kind of relate non-conceptualists to No Quarter by Led Zeppelin. We carry news that get through. This is the path that no one goes. Yeah, of course, an addict is always comfortable as long as the source of their addiction is readily available. But when that ceases, then the problems become very apparent. Yeah, it's you reject what Maya offers until she gets tired of it all and just stops offering things. The algorithm will speed up and offer more experience to you if you want it to. But if you don't want more experience, then you pull your attention away from that process and then the algorithm will slow. It's not like there's something maniacal going on. It's just the way it's programmed. It's not like it's evil. God designed all of this. So there's no real intent for malcontents. Is that a word? It's just the way it's programmed. And the more you engage in it, the faster it'll go until eventually it just kind of spins into an exponential function that leads somewhere else. But the way it's programmed is just the more you use the algorithm and the algorithm is like YouTube pops up a suggestion, would you like to watch this video? Well, that's what the voice in your head is doing. It's like, well, what about this? How about this? Whether it's something just completely thought based, which is mathematics, or something that's like, oh, well, you want to go do this, whatever this is, go do it. Right? That's the algorithm. And it keeps just presenting opportunities, potentials for experience. But once you realize that all that experience is fundamentally unsubstantial, then you just start going, no, thanks. I know that that's fundamentally unsubstantial. I'm not going to engage in that because I just end up back here anyway. Right? It goes up and then it goes down and you're back here anyway. You're just here. And all these things are happening. So the more you pull attention away and don't do like the veto power, the free will is veto power on saying, no, I'm not doing that. Whatever the algorithm says, no, I'm not watching that video. I don't want any of this. But you really have to come to grips with the understanding. You really have to understand as a part of your experience that every single experience is fundamentally as unsubstantial as the watching of a movie. That's it. If you expect to be fulfilled by doing anything in this world, that's where the suffering comes from. Pull your thoughts back to being. Yeah, that when you're just focused on the being, the algorithm will go, okay, well, that God is done playing that game with that series. So it just adheres to where you are always leading in this. Don't ever forget that you're the one that's in control. And when you think that you're not in control, that's when you think that you're the ego, right? The ego is not in control. But the real you is always in control of this. The algorithm follows your attention, right? So where your attention leads, the algorithm will follow. It's like, okay, well, you want more of this? I'll give you more of this. Yeah, and that's it's so obvious, right? Like this is the source of all addiction and all overconsumption. If you're trying to fill the emptiness with more emptiness, well, what will that lead to? Overconsumption and addiction. So it's very simple to explain. And the entire species overconsumes. Look at the obesity within North America is shocking. It's shocking. Like you look at videos of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, there's hardly any fat people around. And now, just about everyone's fat. Overconsumption. We don't recognize that all of the senses are unsatisfactory. One bite should be enough. One taste should be enough. But why isn't it enough? What if you've tasted something once? Tasting it 1,000 times, how does that make it more substantial? How big can you move that floating home? The lake right out there. I don't know what the rules are for living on a lake. Like, I know there's no zoning here, but that's on the land. I don't know. Is it legal that you can live on a lake? And how do you pay taxes? 60 by 20. Yeah, it'd be just like moving a mobile home, almost a small mobile home. 12, 20 feet. How are you ever, you're not going to move something 20 feet wide, right? Well, maybe you'll end up here someday fixing all this stuff that needs to be fixed. I've got so many things that need a mechanic's touch. Oh, yeah. You could just, it's like, you could just plop it down on land as well, hey? Because, like I said, this is open zoning. So, as far as I understand, I could just have anyone put up any building, have 100 people living here, I think. I, it's no zoning. Wow, that'd be awesome. I don't know how busy it might not work this summer, but who knows? You have a chainsaw mill. Yeah, we want to buy a mill. Oh, dude, I've got so much wood on this property. Rusty, you might have to move here. Jeez, bone infection. Ugh. That's very cool. Let's just keep it in mind there, Rusty, and see what happens. See what the universe has in store for us. I've got 8,000 square feet of garden just tarped up and just ready to grow shit. And another 250 cubic meters of perfect growing medium in the back to make more garden. It's just, and water running out of the ground, an artesian well. So this is basically paradise that I'm living in, on, in. What? Oh man, I wish we have one little fruit tree out front, and the bear last year grabbed it and just ripped it. So hopefully it'll produce this year, but the freaking bear, man. I'd love to have fruit trees up here, but we'll see. We have a lot of Saskatoon berry bushes around that we compete with the bear for. Oh my God. Paige, are you reading this? But that's Abbotsford. Man, that's a long ways from here. Yeah, yeah, up here doesn't get as warm. There you go. 3B garden zone. So if there's any newbies here, just feel free to ask a question if you have a question. Make it a question that I know the answer to, though, please. I have two zero-turn mowers. I have an old diesel truck. Well, not that old, but it's not really working very well. And I have a John Deere Gator that hasn't moved since I bought it, since I bought this place. Hey, it's you. I remember you. I don't I don't think that there's just this is hard because each person's life is their own world. So there isn't really one singular objective world, which is opposite to what materialists believe, right? I don't see a rosy picture for humanity, for the future of humanity. I just don't see how anything good can come from the path that most of humanity is on. It's leading straight into hell. We don't go to hell, hell is coming to us. Hell isn't really some place that the bad people go to when they die. Hell is coming, it's in our future. In our future. Hell is coming to us while we're alive in this world. I don't believe that there's some brave new world on this earth, or that humanity is going to be somehow come out of this. Like, see, humanity is in a delusion that it's the good guy, that we're doing something right here, that we're the all of that is true if we just turn the opposite way that we're going. All we have to do is stop what we're doing and concentrate on that stillness that's within us, that non-conceptuality is showing, and that we could evolve. We could naturally evolve into the next higher state of self-awareness, but we're not. Humanity, because there's the opportunity to devolve too, right? And I believe that's what humanity is doing. We're devolving. So no, I don't think that there is an amazing future for humanity at all. I think it's hell. But like I said, your world isn't necessarily that world. For some, this is also a very auspicious time. And not for everyone, this is an auspicious time. If only screen and everything that thought has created, and just take care of our basic needs and spend the rest of the time basically in meditation, just being happy. So there's in the midst of all of this delusion, the deepening of delusion, there also exists the potential for that much awakening to occur. So it's a very powerful time that we're in, era that we're in, to either advance or decline. But there is a fork in the road, and something's going to change. Yeah, well, it might be a very small heaven. Like, I'm calling this farm Moksha Farms. So there could be a dozen people here that are living in heaven, basically, while the rest of the world is going through hell. It's entirely possible. That's what quantum mechanics is saying, is that there isn't one singular objective world, and that this world doesn't have to be a part of that world. My world is not a part of their world. Yeah. See, yeah, but I think that theory of a grand new earth is usually propagated by what I would call the pseudo spiritual crowd, the kind of the hippie, new age, oh, everything's great. And like, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. Yeah, like, well, the first mistake was that Adam named all the animals. So that was their first step out of Eden. And then the second one, of course, was duality. Good, evil. The recognition of duality. the arising of duality within consciousness. I think the best we can do, the best a person can do, is adhere to the practice as best as possible. And then when death comes, to just adhere to that practice, just stay inwardly focused while that transition occurs. And then just have faith that the best thing that can possibly happen will happen from that. It will just naturally unfold the way it's supposed to, if at the moment of death your attention isn't drawn outward. Even to visually focus on something outward, or to think something, but to just be just to be as self-aware and still in mind as possible when you die. That's the best you can do. Yeah. Yeah, we're all, I believe that we're all dying at once. That's the only difference. Is that right? We all know we're going to die. So I think that this time extinction is just all dying at once. And this is the end of the huge iteration, like the biggest iteration that we can possibly think of samsara. So yeah, every single human, it's not just death, right? It's the iteration, the iterations are such, like there's a day, right? And between each waking state, there is sleep, dreamless sleep. So each waking state is a new iteration of samsara, and then the next step up in time frames would be, each iteration would be a life, right? And then the death would be the equivalent of the sleep state. But now, because we've gone full circle, this next iteration is bigger than death even, right? It's extinction. So that's the biggest iteration that we're resetting. So when this human experience is over and there are no more human experiences to have, every ego that takes itself to be human will meet God at a level that they haven't, relatively speaking, for 13.7 billion years. It's a big event and people need to be preparing, but they're not. Like, this one event is worth spending an entire lifetime to prepare for. Like, there's no more time for fun and games, really, is there? The fun and games have been leading up to this, and now there's something really important approaching. What? I'm not sure what you mean by advanced technology. Yeah, you're welcome. It's all about being self-sustaining. So yeah, we've got the first step of maybe 3 or 4 steps of the solar panels. We're going to build a water processing plant to bottle the artesian well, 1,000 gallons of water that runs out of the ground, natural spring water every day, sorry, every day, 1,000 gallons of natural spring water just pours out of the ground here. So we're going to bottle that and sell it. So yeah, we're going to be, the goal is to have a small community here that is single-mindedly focused on the spiritual life and non-conceptuality, but also has some skill sets that Paige and I don't have. Wow. Yeah, see, we don't need reverse osmosis and all that processing. We just need to run it through three different types of filters to get rid of the little things that are in it. So we don't change the water at all. We just filter it and put it in a bottle and sell it as natural spring water because it is. It's from an artesian well. And we're going through drought in this area, really, really bad drought. So this is another no-brainer. It's just like the universe is just saying, and it's because of my practice. I know it is. It's because of my practice that all of this is just unfolding. And of course, as soon as you start talking using words like spiritual community, well, the word cult obviously comes into mind immediately. But it can't be a cult if you're not being programmed. So I'm just deprogramming. Non conceptuality is all deprogramming, and we're not replacing it with any type of programming. So we're not trying to control anyone. We're just letting people be controlled by the universe or their natural state because non-conceptuality doesn't need to evangelize because only Ponzi schemes require growth, right? So this is why, let's say, the Mormons really put a lot of emphasis on getting new people because there's nothing there, right? It's a Ponzi. So Ponzi's require constant growth. And that's why they want to evangelize so strongly. Because the more people around you that believe the same thing, well, then it's easier to believe that same thing, regardless of how ridiculous it is. Yeah, we're going to try to get Tom Cruise. It's not. Chickens. We need someone to take care of chickens too. Are you saying that you've worked with chickens before, or are you just guessing that you know how to do it? Sounds like you're speaking from experience here. Right on. You might be hired, Rusty. Oh, You can be the mechanic and the egg guy. The chicken guy person. Yeah, but the super rich, they don't know who's pulling their strings, right? The super believe that they're controlling society, if you will. But who's controlling them? They don't know. It's the voice in their head that's controlling them. And they have no way to combat that because just like everyone else, they believe the thoughts in the head. They take it to be true and they follow it. So even the greatest conspiracy of all is this entire life, right? It's it doesn't get any deeper than the conspiracy being hiding the fact that the voice in the head, like the whole fucking thing. So to cover that up is the greatest conspiracy. Yeah, I do. Of course, what makes Satan to be is kind of silly, right? That it's that evil and it's because Satan is just the deceiver, right? The great deceiver. And through that deception, humanity following, believing the deception to be true, leads them into unnatural acts, and that could be called evil. So yeah, I think of it. If Satan is the most devious opponent ever, whether he's created it is created or not, if Satan is the most devious opponent, then its greatest play, its greatest deception would have us, its opponent, believing it to be true when it's actually false, right? Believing the lie. So humanity believing the lie that the the voice in the head is revealing truth when it's actually deception, that has led us into the state that we are in and is leading us to extinction and the hell that comes along with the death of the species. It's just really, really, really difficult to accept that the entire species has been that duped at that degree for this long of time. It's very difficult to accept. And it's the deep, deep state of delusion that humanity is in that will not allow them to see what I'm saying. They won't, they're the delusion they can't see because they are so deluded, because Satan or Maya or ignorance, whatever you want to call it, has us. It has humanity completely enveloped, basically. Yeah, well, we tend to personalize things, right? Personify things. So we put this, it's a mistake to personify that force which draws our attention out. It's wrong to personify that. It's not a person, just like God is not a person sitting in a chair doing good things and Satan's out there doing a bunch of bad things. It's just the state of ignorance. So the voice in the head is a distraction, a diversion that leads one away from the reality. So it's a deception. The whole thing is just a deception, like a video game. So the force that brings your attention so intently on the video game that you forget this realm and you're completely focused on that realm, that's it. That's Satan. That is ignorance. It's just you're ignoring this world, which is also a simulation, to play in a video game. So that is a state of ignorance. You're ignoring this to play that. And that ignorance is Satan. But it's not really an outside force trying to fuck things up. It's hardwired into the programming, right? That's exactly what it is. This whole realm is a deception. It's a game. No, fuck no. The elite don't. The elite are more deluded than anyone. Can you imagine being in the head of or having the consciousness of a really, really powerful person? Like say a central banker. Like, can you imagine how much peace Jerome Powell has? Like zero, right? It's got to be constant, blah, 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 constant. So the more control you think you have in this world, the more you're just being distracted from how this world is really operating on, how it's really operated. So let's say that the elite are controlling this dream, but they don't recognize that it's a dream. So what's the difference? You're manipulating a video game. None of it is substantial. It doesn't matter, right? So they think that they're so powerful, and yet they're just manipulating a movie without recognizing that they're in the movie. So that just makes them more deluded to believe that the movie is real. The more that seems that you're manipulating, the more it seems that that whole system is true and real. So no, the elite, everyone is going to die. It doesn't matter if you're Elon Musk. Elon Musk is going to die with everyone else and come before God himself. He just as terrified as anyone else because he doesn't know the stillness. I'm assuming he doesn't meditate. I can imagine how much peace Elon Musk has in his head, right? So no, I wouldn't trade controlling the dream for waking up. There's no comparison there. There's not even a question. So they they have no control, right? They have no control over their own minds. I have one lady, and that's all I need. I'm not none of this non-conceptuality thing is none of it's for me. Like it really isn't. I don't need anything more than I have. I've already got way more than I ever expected I ever would. I don't need more. It's just truth. It's just truth, and truth naturally should be shared. So this is in no way a cult. It has nothing to do with Roy Dobson. It has to do with truth. So don't take any of this on my word. You have to engage in the practice and then decide for yourself whether it's bullshit or not. You do, because this is the magic of Paige and I, is that she also understands thought and how it's bullshit. So This is how we have a perfect relationship. It's just perfect because we're not trying to change each other. We're focused on what we should be focused on, not changing each other's world, but just living your own life as smoothly and easily and in harmony, I guess. Well, good luck, because I don't think there are a lot of people out there that understand fundamentally their own thought processes and how it fucks everything up. Do you mind me asking how old you are, Rusty? Oh, great. Yeah, we need younger people here. Yes. Great. I was thinking, shit, if this guy's in his 50s like the rest of us, then we need a little bit more youth. Something will work out. It's just, if you adhere to the practice, somehow shit works out. It just does. Rusty, how would you like flying drones? I might be able to just set up your whole freaking life for you. Because I'm starting a drone. I have started a drone company. We're all ready to go for this crazy wildfire season. Almost half my age, 28 and 54. Skew the math a little bit. Well, if you get your advanced pilot's license, which isn't that hard, like the test, I took it 3 times before I finally passed it, but there's courses online. I could even hook you up with the course that I took. If you get your advanced pilot's license, then I could technically just hire you to come work for Precision Drones. And I think we're going to have a really, really busy year. And you live in BC. So if you're looking for employment, then keep that in mind. Maybe you'd want to get your advanced pilot's license, drone, and come fly for me. Yeah, the ones that we have, I mean, most of it, it's just programmed. You don't even really have to touch the if you don't really want to. And a young single guy with no family, you could work many, many, many days in a row. Well, it's an option. Well, in a way, I can see why people would call it a school, but I think it's more like a mystery. So yeah, there is something that needs to be learned here, but it's not like yeah. But what's graduation from Earth School? It's not just more Earth School, right? Graduation is enlightenment. Look at how many people we've got around the 30-year mark here. That's great. I don't know why that's great. There you go. I don't use the analogy of a school because it's more like remembering something that you've forgotten than learning something that you don't know. Yeah, there's still the practice, right? So you're done seeking because you have that deep understanding of your true nature, but you're not living that true nature fully yet. So that's just practice. You're fortunate because you don't. I encourage, not because I want to be the only one, But I encourage people to just stop seeking. Stop with this because you found it. Like, non-conceptuality is the highest teaching because it's the end of the teaching, because it goes into the one-step path, which is non-conceptual. so, so don't spread yourself thin looking for other paths, and don't get distracted from what you found and your engagement in the practice, because it's all just practice now. And that's the working out of the relative stuff. You'll never, even if you understand a problem, the understanding of that problem doesn't just make it go away. Yeah, of course. If you keep going down the same path, and if it wears down, right? Like, it keeps, that path becomes, that's why when you look at a path that animals take, it becomes easier and easier and easier to follow that path the more you take that path. So then you just fall into the groove and you just keep doing the same freaking thing over and over and over. Well, I'll go for 10 more minutes and that'll make it 3 hours. And that seems like a nice round. So obviously, this little non-conceptuality group is going to attract like-minded people, like non-minded people, non-minded people. Both. In the there is something about still paying attention to this relative realm and staying alive and being healthy and having abundance in this world. So invest in crypto, then just chill and meditate until about a year from now and then sell it. That's it. It's really, really simple. If you just bought whatever crypto, I would go with Cardano, but whatever, Cardano, whatever, buy a whack load now as much as you can without being uncomfortable. And then just wait for about a year and then sell it in about a year. You'll be wealthy. I believe you'll be wealthy. And then just don't focus on it. Just meditate and let the universe work with it as it will. I think that's a winning combination. Crypto and meditation. Crypto and chill. That's it. Don't get fancy trading and everything. Just hold on to it for about a year. It'll at least 10x. I'm pretty much certain that even Bitcoin will, you put in $1, you'll get 10 back. And if you do it with Cardano with ADA, you might get $40 back for every one you put in. Yeah. So 50K. Okay. So I'm thinking, not financial advice, in case. Yeah. So this is how Paige and I ended up with this property that we bought for cash. So from the low of the bear market to the top of from the bear market to the low to the peak, the top of the blow off top, Cardano went from 2 cents to $3. That's 150x, right? 150 times your return. So I'm thinking it might do something similar, but we're a little late in the cycle. But I'm thinking it will do something similar this time. So it might 10x, it might 50x. As long as they don't try to change you. See, and I think the way that Paige and I have worked, it's been just perfect mojo because we're not trying to change each other's lives. And I think that the energy that goes into trying to change another person's life just fucks up your own. And then when you have two of these people in a relationship that are trying to do the same with each other, then their whole world, that world that they're creating, is not going to be very functional. It's going to be like everyone else. But Paige and I, because we're in the flow. We're in the flow of our world, of our universe, and that we're not wasting energy on trying to change things. We're just letting it flow. And the way it flows naturally is fucking awesome. This is what I mean by all the power and none of the control. You have all of the power when you relinquish control. And it sounds like a paradox, but it's true. So just to end that, I think that Paige and I together have a certain powerful mojo that just allows the universe to just give abundance. Working. Yeah, me too, buddy. Keep in mind, I did fumble around for 45, 46 years prior to finding Paige. I love our little community.
You're in it too, Callie. Yeah.
Maybe someday we'll meet up here for a big party. When I cash in for $10 million, maybe I'll just fly everyone here for a big party. Right, Paige? Oh, what's going on? uh, all right. Well, I'm going to end this off with Paige and I, one of our mantras. Go crypto. Right, Paige? Go crypto. Gang, that's 3 hours. I've had enough of you. We'll see you next weekend. Go crypto.